157 steps. Take it away, Ryan.
Thanks, Colin. Let's give it up for Ryan Henson CREIGHTON, everybody. All right. So who am I? My name is Ryan Henson CREIGHTON. I am the author of Unity 3X Game Development by Example, A Beginner's Guide, which is a fantastic book. You should all buy it. In fact, buy two, because they're going like hotcakes. I am also the president of Untold Entertainment, Inc., which is a small game design studio up in Toronto, Canada. And we do a lot of work for TV production companies, usually for kids' television shows. So we'll work with the Canadian equivalent of Nickelodeon, and we'll work with the Canadian equivalent of Cartoon Network, those kinds of companies, to do mostly web games. We own a couple of Flash game portals. Man, that was a terrible idea. We have one called Word Game World. We've got another one called Zombie Game World, and another one called Tower Defense Game World. You see the theme that we got going, and they each average about like 5 players a day. We have made approximately 20 games so far. We're just hitting our 5th birthday coming up this month, which I'm really excited about. I mentioned that we're guns for hire. But some of our original stuff has really caught on. I made a game with my daughter called Sissy's Magical Ponycorn Adventure. My daughter was 5 years old at the time last year. She did all of the artwork for it with crayon, scanned it in, put it in the game. And then we used our custom graphic adventure game framework called UGAGS, the Untold Graphic Adventure Game System, to crank this out in just a weekend. And it caught on, and people really enjoyed it. If you want to play it, go to ponycorns.com, or you can play it on the iPad, which I'll be talking about in a sec. We're doing this cool game. This is called Putty Crime. It's if you've ever played that game, how many know that game Set? Which is Set, yeah, a couple people. So it's just this card game, and it's really like heady. It's a Mensa Select game. It's combinatoric mathematics, which sounds like loads of fun, but it actually is loads of fun. And we thought that we'd make it a little bit more interesting by putting characters in there and making it out of clay and set it in fake England. So that one's pretty fun. And we're doing this cool game. This one is the one that I'm super excited about. It's called Spelerium. Oh man, I can't tell you how jazzed I am about this game, guys. It's a mashup game of a graphic adventure game and a word puzzle game. So normally in graphic adventures, you go to solve problems, and it's like use the rope on the hook and pull the blah, 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 right? It's really object inventory based. This one, when you go to solve problems, you bring open this word puzzle interface. So it shows you here solving this puzzle. You need to like shear this sheep and knock a bunch of wool off him. So you spell words like shear, cut, trim, chop. It's that kind of game. It's really neat. Great for word nerds. Yeah, before I talk about my pipeline, I just wanted to say that I really wanted to give this presentation because I'm dumb. And I'm not a tech head. Like, I'm not really good at the nitty-gritty behind the scenes, moving files around. I can code, but I don't code the right way. And if any real programmer were to look at my stuff, he or she would get very upset. So all I want to do is make fun games with funny situations and good dialogue and fun characters and neat gameplay. I don't really give a crap about how I get there, but as the president of a small company, I have to care about how I get there because I'm the only one doing it. So this is the presentation that I wanted to give that I wish somebody had given to me a year ago to tell me the process of actually getting a Flash game to iOS. I'll tell you a little bit about our pipeline. We use both Flash Pro and Flash Develop, which is a free open source, unfortunately PC-only code IDE. I used to be the guy who would just code on the timeline all the time, and then I thought it was like so superior because I cleaned it all up and made it so all my code for the entire game was just on the first frame, right? That was the next step, is now you're a real programmer. It's only on the first frame. And then, man, if you want to go into the stratosphere, now you're the guy who just does everything in AS files and just, compiles using Flash Pro, and you type all your code up in Flash Pro. The next kick I'm on is using an external IDE. If you're still the guy or gal stuck in Flash Pro coding, a couple things you might need to know. Adobe, God love them, I love you guys. They've tried to make a good code editor, but God bless them, they just can't get there. And it's just it falls so short every single time of what like a real or normal code editor will do that you got to use these external things. So people use FDT, they use Flash Develop, and they use, what's another one here? FDT, Flash Develop, and what am I thinking? Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. I've never heard of that. But they'll use an external editor because Adobe kind of dropped the ball a little bit on that. So we combine Flash Pro with Flash Develop, we do all of our graphics and animation in Flash Pro. We compile to a SWIC library, and then we embed that in Flash Develop or hook it up. And then with Flash Develop, we pull stuff out of the library and stick it on stage and make it dance around and do stuff. Our platform reach using Flash, we can get to iOS, most iOS devices. It gets a little bit dicey if you're trying to target iPad 1 or iPod generations 1 to 3, but as soon as you get to iPod generation 4 and iPad 2 and beyond, you're good to go. We can target Mac computers, Windows computers, and that icon means the World Wide Web. We can also get down to Android and Playbook, and I made them really, really little, and I put them down in that corner because we don't really want to, even though we can get there. And I'll just spend a brief moment telling you why. So Android, you might know, there's no hardware spec or no implementation spec that Google put out for making an Android device, and so they've just taken the ball and just run with it. And if you've seen some of these charts describing the fragmentation in the Android market, it's abysmal. There's 400 different screen sizes that you could possibly target, different hardware specs. Some of them have cameras, some of them don't, some of them have prongs and cattle prods sticking out of them. I don't know. I don't even know. But we don't want to touch Android. The other thing is that business-wise, anecdotally, we've heard a lot of stories saying that it's really difficult to monetize on Android because people, it's easier to pirate on Android. So people just steal their stuff if they don't want to pay for it. So then it becomes the big model is to build this game that has a massive bazillion player install base and then throw ads on that, and that's how you make the money. But massive bazillion player install base isn't the kind of game that we usually make, unfortunately. Playbook, we have something on Playbook right now, but the problem there is that even for us, the audience is pretty small. So it becomes really hard to monetize when you only have a couple people. I think RIM sends me a check for like $2.34 every month. And I feel really bad because it's like, save your money. Like, if they if they shut down, I don't want to be the guy that everyone blames for writing these checks. Cool. We're going to play a little bit of Mythbusters fun. I'm going to give you 4 things that you may or may not have heard about the Flash platform and developing Flash stuff for iOS, and then I'm going to investigate them in detail. 4 things, here they are. First thing, Adobe has abandoned Flash. Settle down, we're going to talk about it. This is the Adobe guys up here in front. You can't put a Flash game on iOS. There's another statement I'm just going to leave right there. You must own a Mac to develop for iOS. And you can only create Flash content using Adobe Flash Professional. Please don't lynch me after the talk. So these are four statements that, or 4 thoughts that you might have in your own mind brain about the situation with Flash and iOS. So I'm going to address them one by one, Mythbusters style. So if we could wheel out the giant cannon that shoots VW buses, can we? No. I'm actually just going to do it on the slides. Adobe has abandoned Flash. You might have heard of that because there was an announcement about a year ago that I think was kind of a poorly handled announcement on Adobe's part. And whether you read the announcement or not, the takeaway that everyone grabbed was that Flash is dead. So I'm here to tell you excitedly, of course you're all here at Flash Gaming Summit, you should need to know this, Flash isn't quite dead. So let's talk about what Adobe has abandoned and what they haven't abandoned. So they have abandoned development on their mobile web player. As you know, or you may know, Steve Jobs took the mic and he said, "Attention everyone, Flash isn't cool," and then he like dropped the mic and walked off the stage, like kicked the amp on his way by. And there are a couple of, he had this article that you might have read that had kind of, he was playing like 2 truths and a lie, where he would say like, cats have fur, Flash is dead. Like he would mix up fact with really weird fiction about Flash, which wasn't all that fair, but he was the guy with the mic at the time. So, and now Steve Jobs has passed on and Flash lives on. So I'm just gonna Flash. So what they have, so they're not allowed on the iOS platform, and I think part of the reason of that is because they've got this big ecosystem of games, and Adobe gets a 30% cut with every game that's sold on the iTunes Store, and if we have everybody running rampant, making games that are playable through the web browser on iOS, perhaps they might not get that revenue. Now, the HTML5 casts that in a slightly different light now, which is kind of interesting. But that was, I think, one of their motivations. Another motivation is, I believe, Apple would have to pay Adobe a bunch of money, is this correct, in order to license the Flash player for their platforms, and perhaps they may not have wanted to do that. But what happened with Adobe is that they had this mobile web player running on Android stuff, and then they decided to abandon that, I think for the same reason that I don't develop for Android. Because they've got so much fragmentation, they've got a bazillion different SKUs to have to worry about. So anecdotally, what I've heard is that if you develop a game for Android, and it doesn't work on some dude's bizarre little like circular-shaped Android device that he bought in China on vacation or whatever, he leaves a comment with like 0 stars and he blames you for not testing on his weirdo little device, right? So when you're Untold Entertainment, that doesn't really matter, but when you're Adobe and everyone's expecting this Flash player to work on every stupid device they can possibly buy, it becomes more of an issue. I think they just said, forget it, and chucked it. They've also abandoned boring developers, and I have to qualify that. What I mean is they found out that the other technologies, other competing technologies, like they were really courting with Flex, they were courting the kinds of people who were going to make enterprise software, and they were going to do web forms and stuff like that. And for starters, all those people expect their tooling to be free, and Adobe's trying to sell Flash Builder and things. And not only that, but a bunch of other technologies, they can do web forms pretty easily, and they can do like the really dull stuff. So I think Adobe took a look at Flash and said, well, there's some real sizzle and sex to Flash, and it ain't those guys, so let's just cut them loose and do something new. So what they have not abandoned includes the Flash platform, still very actively spending development dollars building new versions of Flash. They haven't abandoned game developers. Instead, they put a renewed focus on game developers. So full disclosure, I'm one of their game developer influencers that Thibaut was actually referencing. One of the people who kind of whispers in their ear and says, hey, it'd be really cool if we could have like particle effects, guys. That'd be awesome. And then they get to work and build stuff like that. And renewed focus on video. So they've noticed that like games and video are two things that sort of Flash can do better or is better situated to deliver over stuff like, I won't even mention competing technologies, other competing technologies. So I think this myth is busted. They have not abandoned Flash whatsoever. Second one I put up there, you can't put a Flash game on iOS. This whole presentation is predicated on this concept. And so if everybody believes that you can, then I'm wasting my time here. You can actually put a Flash game on iOS. Mobile Flash games will not run. So you can't play a Flash game in the browser on an Apple device at all because of the reasons I mentioned previously. However, using Air, which is sort of like a bundly thing that lets you make desktop applications, you can also make native apps and put them right on the iOS platform. And so the whole, man, if you're not in it for this ride at this point, then you can just go grab lunch or whatever, because this is the rest of the story. So you can put a Flash game on iOS bundled with Air as a native app. So on your home screen, a bunch of icons, and your game is right there. Sell it on the store. Everything's good. So, oh, and I put the little flame down there because another kind of quasi-myth is people are like, yeah, you can do it, but like performance really sucks, slow, and everybody hates it. But I'm sure if you talk to Thibaut and Lee, every iteration of Air makes it better and better and faster and more awesome. And they can show you some blazingly smoking hot, really good stuff running in Air on iOS. So if you doubt that, then go see those guys. They can give you some good demos. Busted, I declare. Busted. Third one, you must own a Mac to develop for iOS. This one's weird. The truth is that the entire time you can develop on a PC, which might surprise some people. You don't actually need to own any Mac hardware. It's really important for us because we're like an entirely PC shop. We don't own Mac stuff, partly because it's super expensive. And another, I sit down at a Mac and I have no idea what the hell's going on. So I'm really glad that I can stay on a PC and do 100% of my development. However, Apple likes money. So they made it so that you absolutely can't upload that very last step when you've got your final file, it's working, you test it, it's ready to go, you're ready to sell it. You can't upload it to iTunes unless you have a Mac because they enjoy selling Macs. So what you can do is you can go find a friend who has a Mac, and for that last 5-minute window, you can borrow the Mac and upload your IPA file, no problem. fact, that's what I did. When I put Ponycorns on the iPad, it was pretty ghetto. I was on borrowed time and borrowed software, so I was using Flash CS 5.5, the 30-day free trial, and I didn't own any devices, so I borrowed an iPad from my friend Jason, and we put the game together, tested it, and released it. And then the trial expired, and the iPad went back to my friend Jason, and then customers came in and said, oh, there's this horrible bug with the game where you can't play it more than once. And I couldn't keep developing for it. So, buyer beware, try this at your own risk. I'm going to call this one confirmed, or at least plausible. You do technically need a Mac, yes, but the rest of it, all be done on PC, no problem. You can only create Flash content with Adobe Flash Professional. Swift is kind of an open format. They've released the spec, and other stuff can actually create Swift content. So non-Adobe software like Flash Develop that I mentioned before can actually create Swift files. So that one is also busted. So the 4 myths that we were talking about, the first one, Adobe's been in Flash, busted. You can't put Flash on iOS. You actually can. You do need a Mac, but most of it can be done on PC. And you can only create Flash content using Adobe stuff. Not true at all. Cool. Shall we continue? Yes, we shall. Here's what you want to do if you are, in a PC shop like mine. You want to take your Swift and put it on iOS. Who's done this so far? Who's put 1, 2, and who? Okay, this is the really important part. Who hasn't done it but kind of wants to find out about it? One guy in the audience. Now, okay, what you can't see is that at home on the live stream, like everybody's putting up their hand. So don't worry, it's still good. All right, here are the things you need. This icon I used to mean OpenSSL, which is this free thing that you can download, toss the guy a couple bucks because I guess he did a good job. I don't really understand what it is or what it does, but it's a command line thing, and you type in complicated stuff and things happen. I will describe those things forthwith. You're gonna need Flash Develop or another code IDE. This icon is the Xcode icon for Mac's development tools. I'm actually using it to signify a developer account. So that's 99 bucks with Apple. It's actually 99 bucks a year, and I'd love somebody to confirm or deny this. I heard if you pay the 99 bucks, you release like 12 games on the App Store, and then you let it lapse and you don't pay your 99 bucks. I heard that they take your games out of the store. Is that true? Oh my gosh. So keep paying your 99 bucks. You're gonna need a Mac for the last 5 minutes, and you're gonna need the Flex and Air SDKs. At least that's what we use to do it. Those are free downloads. You just grab them, you throw them in a folder together. Optionally, you can have Flash Develop because Flash Pro. Something like Flash Develop, you can't do any graphics or anything in there. You're gonna need to build a sprite manager and draw your stuff in some other program. And this is the one that we use because it's superb. And you'll probably want a testing device. Not necessary, I highly recommend it. What do you actually have to do? Well, here's how it works. You get a magical special file called a mobile provision file, and you get another special file called a P12 file, and you get your Swift file, your Flash Swift file, and you throw it through the Air sausage grinder, and what comes out on the other side is this IPA file. This is the big prize. This is what you're trying to get to, because that IPA file is the thing that you upload to the store, and that's what gets sold and downloaded by people, and you make, as everyone knows, scads of money, guaranteed millions, I've heard, on iOS. So I'm just going to take you through the convoluted steps of getting these files and then what you do with them when you have them, starting with the most egregiously complicated one, which is the P12 certificate. So stick with me. Here's how it goes. The P12 certificate. This is the file that identifies you as the developer of the thing, right? So it's kind of like your signature. It's the way to say that Jack and Jill Games made this file, and Apple's like, cool, then we'll throw it up on the store as you. This is a file that you only need to build once, and you can use it for all of your other apps, right? So this is like the company file, so you don't need to generate this more than once, thank God. So here it is. You take OpenSSL and you type in a complicated thing. What complicated thing? Why? I have all the instructions detailed for you in a blog post, which I'll link to at the end. So you don't have to take pictures or notes, just follow the link to the blog post. High level, you take OpenSSL, type in some mumbo jumbo, and it creates a key file, .key, K-E-Y file. And then you take that key file and you run it through OpenSSL again, adding your email, your name, and your country code. So like CA for Canada, US for USA, and that creates a cert signing request file. That is the actual file name. And I pine for the days when we just use 3-letter extensions. Cert signing request file, which you then take and you put it up on the port. When I use this icon, this portal icon on an Apple, what I'm talking about is the mobile provisioning portal. So it's a website where you go, you have access to it when you pay your 99 bucks, and they say, okay, you want one of these cert files? Well, give us one of those things. So you say, well, I got one of those things. So you throw it up there, and they say, well, here you go, here's your cert file. And you say, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And they say, go ask Ryan, he did a presentation on it. So you take your cert file, you download it from that website, and the cert file, this is the most mysterious step of the whole process. I don't get it, but those of you who know more about encryption can tell me later. Take your cert file through OpenSSL, type in some junk, and it makes a PEM file. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with adding some sort of encrypted key or extra protection, but the point is you need the PEM file, so do the step. So you convert the cert to a PEM. Your PEM file then gets added with the key file from like 4 steps ago, and then you spin that through OpenSSL again with another command, and that cranks out, thank Jesus, your P12 file. Okay, woo! So just to recap, you get your key file, then you get your cert signing request file, then you get your cert file, then you get your PEM file, then you get your P12 file, then you get the women, then you get the power. So in our little roadmap of the stuff we need and what we're trying to get, end goal down here, ba-ding, we have, there's no sound, so I just made the ba-ding sound. That was with my mouth. We have the P12 file, so we're ready. Cool. We're going to get the next file, which is the mobile provision file, up there. Obtaining a mobile provision file. The mobile provision file is a file that basically says, this app is okay to run on these devices. So when you're developing, you're not actually able to, unlike Android, where you can just like throw APK wherever the hell you want, on an Apple device, you're not actually allowed to. You have to, it has to be like, okay, you're the bouncer, okay, you're on the list, okay, come on in, right? So you have to actually designate which devices this little thing can run on. When you're in the last step, you're going to use a different mobile provision file to say anybody can download this, but then you can't distribute that. That only gets to go to Apple, and they're the only ones who can deign that tons of people can play this file. So the first step, you take your device and you go to the mobile provisioning portal, and you tell them that this device exists. So you take the UDID, which is the big identifier for the device, and you throw that up there, and you make a little profile for your device. And then in the second step, you take, what is this thing? Oh, yeah. So you have to tell Apple that I'm going to make a game, and it's going to be called this, and it's going to be great, and here's the description. Maybe you can even upload some screenshots at that point, but you tell it that, or can you, or is that a different site? I get confused. But you basically tell it that you're going to make this app, and this is what it's called. So you tell the portal that. And then the third step, the portal then says, okay, well, you say, can I have a mobile provision profile for this game, this app on this or more devices? And it says sure, and it issues you this file, this mobile provision file. Now this is the step that a year ago, if an angel could have come down and said, in the future you're going to be doing this, and this is going to make you cry for hours. This is the part that really confused me. You don't just make these 2 files once. You need them at least twice, because there's this concept of development versus distribution. You make your mobile provision file for development and your P12 file for development. You've got completely separate mobile provision file for distribution and a completely separate P12 file for distribution. And because that's not complicated enough, they decided to split that up. So now you can have 2 different styles of distribution files. So we're talking 6 files in total. So this is the green is for when you're testing, and then you can make a mobile provision file and a P12 file for ad hoc. And what that means, actually, you know what, that you can, I lied. These 2 P12s on the bottom can be the same P12. But the ad hoc thing is for when you want other people outside your company to be able to test the game and test it in kind of the state that it's going to be in when it's in the App Store. And then this down here in the bottom right is like when it's in the App Store. You use these 2 distribution files to package up your app for distribution on the store. Don't try to upload your thing with when it's being bundled with the dev stuff, because it's not going to work, and Apple won't tell you why, and you're going to cry your face off for weeks and weeks. But the happy news is that we have the file that we need right here. Look, we've got 2 out of 3, no problem. We're almost ready to go into the air sausage grinder. So The next step is to start a Flash Develop project if you're using Flash Develop or whatever your favorite code IDE is. Please don't use Flash Pro. So in Flash Develop, you have this standard splash screen, and the project that you want to choose is called Air Mobile AS3 app. Don't be fooled by the little Android there, because it's also good for iOS. They just probably, this is a free logo to use, so they didn't want to use the Apple. And where do you put everything? When you create one of these projects, it creates 3 standard folders. I say like a pro because I had no idea these were standard development folders until I actually used Flash Develop. So bin, in case you're a dummy like me, is short for binaries, so that's like your final game output. Your Swift goes in there. Lib is short for libraries, so that's like all your images, and we keep our FLA files and our SWIC files in there. And Stirk source is where you keep all your ActionScript files, so all your your code files and your classes and stuff. Yes, thank you, picture. And then they actually add a couple more folders. One's called the cert folder, and one's called the dist folder. So inside the cert folder, that's where you actually, there's one of contention, but I'm lazy, so I throw everything in there. Other folks say that you're actually supposed to keep your P12 file kind of external to the project, but we don't have all kinds of crazy office espionage and people trying to steal stuff all over the place, so I just throw them in the same folder. It's all good. So I put my certs in the cert folder, and then when I do actually bundle my thing, it spits out this IPA file, which is the holy grail. This is the thing that you desperately, desperately want above all. And there are 3 important batch files that Flash Develop gives you. One is called setup SDK, one is called setup application bat, and one is called run.bat. You just kind of, I wish it was one bat, but I guess, nerds like complexity. So generally speaking, this is the one that you point to your Air SDK and your Flex SDK, among other things, but that's probably the most important thing you're doing with that file. The setup application batch file, this is where you point it and tell it where those 2 important files are, mobile provision and P12. So if you've got your P12 like some godforsaken place, you can actually adjust the path so it's pointing to the right place. And the run bat is, among other things, it's the thing that actually decides the dimensions of your game. And this was a really important distinction for me in Flash Develop that took me a while. There are 2 different places where you can tell Flash Develop how big your game is. You can go up into like a project properties thing, and you're changing this number and changing this number, and you're hitting compile, and you're like, I swear that is not 10 pixels by 10 pixels, right? And it's huge, and it's because there are 2 different places. And the way it works is the Adobe ADL. What does acronym ADL stand for? Adobe Development. ADL is the program that you use that essentially, it's like the, what's the word I'm looking for? It is the thing that pretends like it's Air, so you don't have to have a fully packaged Air app in order to run your Air app, right? So Adobe Debug Launcher is what I'm trying to say. So the Adobe Debug Launcher uses one set of numbers, and when you're playing the thing in the Swift Flash player, then it uses a totally different set of numbers. So if that trips you up, that's what's going on. And it's just a text file. You just tell it paths. It's pretty easy. You've also got a couple of other things. There's an icons folder in there, and inside icons, there's Android and iOS. Inside the iOS folder, before you get a layer too deep, whenever you deploy something using Air to iOS, it puts up this giant Air logo. So as soon as you launch your game, you're going to see this big red thing, and you're going to wonder like crazy how to get it out of there. You just create like a 1024 by 768 or whatever resolution you're using image, and you plunk it in this folder, and within Flash Develop, it all gets rolled up and deployed. And you might actually need 2 images, because there's one where if it starts up in opposite landscape orientation, it's called landscape right image, then you got to dump a landscape right image in there. And then there's an icons folder, and that's where you crank out all your icons and throw them in there. And those will get wrapped up. And then there's this one really crucial file that you really need to know about called the application XML file. It contains some of the most important information about your thing, including its ID. Why is the ID important? Because if you get this wrong, and if you're like me, you do, and you do often, if you get this wrong, the whole thing doesn't work, and you get to the very last stage in the process, and again, Apple doesn't tell you why it doesn't work. It just says, no, it doesn't work. And try again. This is the ID. When you are on their portal, on their website, and you create your app ID, they ask you for a little com.untoldentertainment. The name of my game kind of path, and they append some weirdo string of letters and numbers to the end of it, right? Forget the weirdo string, but those first, little bits. If my company's Untold Entertainment, the com.untoldentertainment.ponycorns, for example, that needs to be your ID. And if that's not the ID, the whole ship goes down and everyone dies horribly. So make sure that that's working. The version number is super important because if, like me, you upload it broke and you need to go back and you need to issue a patch or an update to it, the requirement is that the version number needs to be incremented. So if you have like a 1.0 game and you're like, oh shoot, I accidentally put pornography all throughout the game, remove the porno, and then you try to upload it back to the App Store, they'll say no and then they won't, it's a little bit mysterious, their errors. So you need to make sure that the version number goes up or else they're going to reject it like a bad baboon heart. iPad, iPhone, this is where you actually determine whether the thing's going to run on an iPad or an iPhone, and they've got some nice background stuff that happens that you need to specify. It's just a line if you uncomment, and now it suddenly works on the iPad. Hooray. You decide whether it's going to launch portrait or landscape. That's really important. You decide render mode, CPU or GPU. So the Adobe guys were just talking about Starling because I really don't understand GPU or complicated stuff at all. All I know is that if I don't enable GPU mode, my game doesn't run well at all. And when I enable it, it runs a lot faster and a lot better. So me, sage advice to you, me the big expert, I enable it and it's all good. Cool. So you generate your Swift, when you hit a little compile button, your Swift pops out. So we've got the 3 files that we need to throw through the big sausage grinder. We're about to get our IPA file. That very last step to actually do that, they've got this batch file called package app. You just run it. You just right-click it and hit execute, and it gives you a series of options. So you can choose like a test file or like the big daddy. We're going to upload it to the App Store file, and it creates your IPA. So if you created with the dev cert, and you chose the right option from that list, then you're able to just drag it right into iTunes. You drag it right on there where all your apps show up. You drag it right in there, and then you right-click and hit sync, and it's on your iPad, which is super magical and exciting and fun. If you use the distribution certs to create it and you chose the right option, then you're able to actually upload it to iTunes. What does that step look like? The last glorious step that always breaks for me. iTunes Connect is another Apple website completely unrelated to their provisioning portal. So you go in there and you log in with your credentials and you tell it, okay, ready? Because I'm going to upload something. I'm going to upload this app. And that's the point where you're going to want to get all your screenshots together, your description, and the rating and languages, blah, blah, blah. So you decide all that stuff. So iTunes Store is like, okay, cool. Totally ready. And then you take your IPA file and you go find a friend with a Mac, and that friend opens this thing called Application Loader. They used to make it so that you could just, like, this is not fake at all. You could just upload the thing from any computer you wanted to. And then they introduced this step where you have to use Application Loader, again, to sell more Macs. That's why Apple has bazillions of dollars and I don't. So Application Loader, use Application Loader. And Application Loader's like, it connects with the iTunes Connect page, and it's like, okay, well, you told them we're waiting for this file, so you ready? And you're like, yeah, I'm ready. And they're like, okay, tell us where the file is. And you're like, well, it's right here. And they're like, okay, cool. And then if all the stars are aligned and you did the 157 easy steps properly, then it goes through. If not, you get this series of error messages written by eggheads it uses English words, but it doesn't use them in ways that English-speaking people can actually process into a proper sentence, which makes any sense. So if you get to that point and that happens, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do for you, because we're at that point with a couple of other things, and I have no idea what's going on. But if it all works, then it says hooray, and it uploads it to the store, and you are ready to sell things and make big bucks. I wanted to go over a couple of really important things, some snags that I've hit in the whole process that have tripped me up. In Flash Develop, this is just a Flash Develop specific thing, they accidentally built that project profile so that there's an extraneous icons folder, which if you don't delete it could cause you some problems. So delete it, and we outline that in the whole blog post. Which, by the way, I should give a shout out to former intern Sina, who wrote that whole thing up for me, because I just sit and eat grapes while interns do work for me all day long in Untold. Everything in the bin folder gets compiled. I was really confused about, okay, so we have games that use voiceover, right? So the process that we were using is we'd go into Flash and we'd import, they were WAV files, and you can't actually get external WAV files. It has to be an external MP3 file, right? So, okay, if we want to use WAVs, then we took all our WAV files, we put them in the library in this Flash file, we exported to a SWIC, and we embedded that. So in the code, whenever it needs a sound effect file, it just goes into that library, pulls a sound effect out, and play it. We thought that was just the peachiest solution available to us. When we put that thing on the iPad, the splash screen, the loading screen, stayed up for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, because I think what it was trying to do was take like all those sound files and load them into memory. There were about 2,000 sound files in this one particular game. So that's when we realized that was a terrible idea. So then what we had to do was convert everything from WAV to MP3, stick it in a folder, and do the whole dynamic loading thing, no problem, which happens instantly because it's all on the same device. So there's no big memory load or anything. It just grabs these files, no problem. Except I had this mental block. I didn't quite know, how like you don't have a sense on the iPad of where stuff is. Like there's no file structure or anything. You have no idea where you are in space. So I didn't quite get how that worked. But with Flash Develop, it says, okay, calm down. Mama knows. The bin folder, if you throw things in the bin folder, we'll take everything in the bin folder and wrap it up relative to your SWIF or your IPA file. So if your IPA file needs anything, it's right there, snuggled up next to it. So you're okay. So that's what we did. We put all those files in the bin folder, and we were able to just grab them dynamically. But it's important to know that if you're just, being fast and loose, and you decide to throw a big pile of movie files in your bin folder that you don't actually need in your game, you can pile it up. Those things are getting wrapped up with your now incredibly massive IPA file. So anything you don't need in the game, don't throw it in the bin folder. I mentioned you can't upload using DevCerts. I reiterate that because you can't upload using DevCerts. And then I mentioned that you have to version with each iTunes upload, or else it says no in a cryptic way. And here's something that we do. I heard way back when we were doing Ponycorns last year that you can't. There's all these apocryphal stories of, oh, Apple will reject you if you have brown eyes or whatever. So this particular one was Apple will reject your thing out of hand if you rotate it and the game doesn't rotate, right? So I went and grabbed some code off Stack Overflow, but that uses a specific error API. So now you can't hit compile and have a working web thing, because now you're going to get an error saying, well, where's this piece of code? So what we do is we generally have like 2 document classes, like a main and a main error or whatever. And in Flash Develop, it's real simple. You just set one to be the document class and hit go and rip. There's your SWIFT for web. And then you set the other one as document class, hit go, and bang, there's your IPA file for mobile. That's what we do. You probably have better solutions, which I'd love to hear about later. That's how we doing? Yeah. So I can take some questions on this, but I really wanted to give away prizes first. Being a game developer influencer, Adobe said that I could actually give away a CS6 master collection for free, which is pretty cool. You guys excited about that? All right, so I'll put the slide back after, but what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to this thing. Unfortunately, you have to have a phone to win, which sucks because I don't have a phone, so I'd be sitting there just fuming. Oh, God, that guy. So this is what Liz from Adobe recommended we use. It's called Fraffle, and here's how it works. Everyone who wants to win this thing, stand up. Yeah, you know you want to win. You're going to stand up. There's no shame in that. All right. Okay. Yes, if you want to win it and you don't have a cell phone, steal a cell phone from a friend. Okay, let me look at the instructions here. Tell the audience to remain standing. Remain standing. While their phone number matches the pattern. Okay, so I'm going to click and tap the last digit to make it stop spinning. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. 6. The last number is 6. So if your last number is not 6, you sit down. And 90% of the audience should now be seated. But it's a small audience. Do we have a winner? Are you the only dude with last number 6 in your phone number? No. Oh, wait, in back. Okay. So now it's, oh, now you're sitting down? How many? Oh, a couple of people standing up. Okay, good. Don't let me award this erroneously. I don't want to be that guy. All right, so we're going to click the next digit and see who's still standing. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ding, 8-6. Don't worry. If you were standing, don't sit down, because it says, wait, check it out. It says, if anyone is left standing, give them the prize. If not, respin and try again. Okay, so you're still in this. This is cool. So if you were just still standing, not the first batch, you're all done. Forget it. Only that second batch. Okay, cool. All right, so who's still up? Yeah, a couple people? All right, we're going to respin this. I feel like Monty Hall. 8? What? Come on. Technology. Do it. 5. Anyone got 5? No? Okay, we're going to do it again. Remember, you scream it out. Once it stops on the number, another 5. This is great random pulling. All right. 7. No. Okay. 7 again. 8. No. Still no. Okay. 6. Anyone got double 6s? No? Okay, stay standing. Don't sit down yet. This will only be a 1. Anyone got 1? Okay, this will only be another half hour. Don't worry about it. Okay, wait. Anybody got 2? Oh! Do 2 people have 2? Because that would suck. No, okay, 1 guy. Okay, so you come see me. Congratulations. Yay. Come see me later, give me your details, and I'll make sure that you get CS6 Master Collection. I have, I think, a little bit of time for questions, and I really hope I'm able to answer them. Has anybody got them? That, by the way, is the link that you want, bit.ly Untold Flash to iOS, which details it in just gory detail. So every step you need to know, including the things you got to type into OpenSSL, blah, blah, blah. So check that out. No questions, no questions. Anybody from home who's watching on live stream? Any questions? I can't hear you, so we're going to have to, I don't know why I said that. So, no. Okay, well, thank you very much.